The smell of cheap coffee and old paper filled the lawyer's office. 3 weeks ago, my son, Michael, was a brilliant, living presence. Now he was reduced to signatures and property titles. I sat across a mahogany table, my spine rigid. Beside me, Sarah, my daughter-in-law, DIL, was a spectacle of feigned grief and barely concealed avarice. She leaned in, her perfume cloying, her voice a cruel whisper meant only for me. "You look tired, Mother. Don't worry, you won't get a cent from your son's will, I promise you." I did not flinch. I did not move. I just watched the lawyer, Mr. Henderson, a man whose face was a study in practiced neutrality. He offered the smallest, almost imperceptible smile, a smile that didn't reach his eyes, a smile that shook my world far more than Sarah's malice. I had known she would betray me. The day after Michael's funeral, she had changed the locks on the house I had given them. "Your presence is disturbing my peace," she'd hissed, forcing me out into the rain. The cruelty was expected. What was new was the lawyer's smile. It suggested a hidden hand, a calculated finality that was not hers. I realized then that Michael had known. The betrayal wasn't just Sarah's immediate, crude grab for his millions. It was the years of subtle manipulation she had exerted, poisoning my son against me, convincing him I was a burden. The deeper, emotional wound was the fact that for the last decade, Michael had believed her lies and slowly distanced himself. But the lawyer's smile told me that my son, in his final, clear moments, had seen the truth too. I went back to the old house, not to plead, but to observe. I secured the only thing she hadn't taken, Michael's laptop, hidden in a dusty box in the garage. While she spent the week making phone calls about liquidation and property sales, I spent the nights methodically dismantling her story. I looked past the deleted texts and into the encrypted folders. I wasn't searching for infidelity, I was looking for motive. I found it tucked beneath a series of financial documents. Sarah had systematically been draining a smaller trust fund Michael had established for his future grandchildren. Worse, I found records of high-interest loans she had taken out against the main estate, loans Michael knew nothing about, which threatened to bankrupt the very fortune she was about to inherit. I realized she wasn't just greedy, she was desperate. The results I needed were not on paper. They were in the digital timestamps. The final will, the one everyone expected to be read, was dated 3 months before Michael's death. But in the same folder, protected by a single complex password, my birthday, was a newer document, executed just 2 days before his accident. He had seen the financial abyss she was creating. I arrived at the reading and did not acknowledge Sarah. I simply sat, perfectly still. Mr. Henderson began reading the main document, the one Sarah already knew. The primary assets, the house, the major investments, all went to the wife, Sarah. She looked at me, a tight, vicious smirk pulling at her lips. "See," she mouthed, savoring the moment. "Told you." Mr. Henderson finished. Sarah was already pulling out a celebratory tissue. Then the lawyer cleared his throat, adjusting his spectacles. He looked past Sarah, his gaze settling briefly on me. "That concludes the assets listed in the primary will of April 2024, he stated. He then reached beneath the table and produced a thin, scarlet folder. His voice dropped, gaining a cold, resonant clarity. "However, there is one more item left. It is titled, 'The Final Testament.'" Sarah's face went white. She knew. She understood the birthday password. He began to read the final clause. "In light of recent undisclosed actions threatening the financial integrity of my estate, and with the understanding that my beloved mother, whose heart and loyalty have been tested, must be protected, I hereby transfer all proprietary rights of the company, all liquid assets, and all future royalties from my patents, effective immediately, into a new, irrevocable trust. The sole trustee is my mother, Mrs. Eleanor Vance. The silence was total. The millions she was counting on vanished into an untouchable legal structure. Sarah's eyes rolled back. She didn't scream. She just fainted, collapsing backward in a sickening thud of expensive fabric and shattered ambition. I didn't move to help her. I met the lawyer's eyes, and in his slight nod, I saw the vindication of my son's final, silent act of love. I stood, my legs steady, and looked down at the crumpled figure. The grief was still a presence, but the control was mine. She got nothing. I got back the truth of my son.